Hi, and welcome to episode 7 of Return of the Retro. I am Randark, and with me, as always, is Ervik.
Hello.
It's Thursday, September 5th. I want to say hi to the live chat, of which there are 4 people watching, but in the viewer list, there's only me and Geek Culture Andy. Even Ervik isn't watching us. Hi, Andy.
I'm in there.
Not in the chat viewer list. You're not listed. Maybe
I
you're not
can't.
logged in.
I don't know.
And also with me is the angry, vengeful spirit of Don Beebe, because I said that Steve Tasker earlier in the week was the one to knock the ball out of Leon Lett's hands in the Super Bowl, but I was wrong. Thank you for that, Andy. We are part of the Geek Insomnia Network. You should be listening to all of the shows in the Geek Insomnia Network, including Andy's show, Geek Culture Happy Hour, Late Night Steamer, Minecraft Uncensored, and of course, Return of the Retro. We're still looking for more shows, so if you're interested, go ahead and send me an email at hosts@returnoftheretro.com, and I'll get you in contact with the people in charge. Ervik, what have you been playing?
I fixed it. Um,
Okay.
I've been playing, don't judge me, Final Fantasy XIV, the game of the week, Shadowrun Returns, MechWarrior Online just had a big update, awesome stuff there. And today I actually purchased and beat Gone Home, which was a pretty decent game.
Sounds like it was really short, though.
Yeah, it's only, if you know what you're doing, maybe 30 minutes. If you don't, hour and a half, give or take. The $20 price tag's a little steep for the amount of game you get, but they're doing some pretty unique stuff that you don't really see. It's 4 guys, or I think three people, a guy and 2 girls, or 2 girls and a guy, or something, that and another 4th one. The first 3 all met while working on BioShock.
Okay.
And some of the sequel, and they took the idea of, the audio logs and stuff in the world of BioShock, like filling out the world, and said, what if we just made a game that was that? Like, the game is essentially all digging through story. So the setup is, you're a college-age girl, and you've just come home from a year backpacking. You finished college, took a year off to go backpacking in Europe, and you've come home. And it's set in like the mid 90s, so there's no like cell phones or anything, and you arrive home and there's no one there. And you have to set about, like, the first task is like getting in the house because you don't have a key. So you have to like get in the house, and then it's just you wandering around figuring out like where everyone is. It sets up a pretty tense atmosphere, and it's weird because it's not really like a survival horror game or anything. It's a game about story, but it feels very tense. And it's pretty unique. If it ever goes on sale, you should pick it up. Like I said, $20 is a little steep.
Yeah, sounds good. I obviously will need a job first, because that's still an issue, but hey, what are you going to do? For me, I've also been playing our game of the week, Shadowrun Returns, and that's been I've also been doing a Let's Play for it for Late Night Steamer and for our YouTube. I'm going to, after I finish them and get them all up on Late Night Steamer, then I'll just set up a playlist on our YouTube. Really good, really good. I think episode 5 comes out tomorrow, and episode 6 comes out on Monday, and I recorded 7 this afternoon, so that'll come out on Tuesday. So yeah, if someone wants to watch what I've done in that game, they can, but I'm going to apologize for the resolution because you can't read most of the words. So I read a lot of it to you, though, except for episode 2. Also, I'm playing some DuckTales Remastered. Got through... Did I finish it? I don't think I finished it. I started working on... Oh, no, I did finish the Amazon Mines. Did not get through the Himalayas the first time through, so... Still working on it. Path of Exile, I've sunk quite a few hours into lately. I even goaded you into playing it some more with me.
Yeah, I had fun. I still, I gotta say, it's the Diablo fatigue. Like, that just... I'm getting there, though. I think I had a lot of fun, so we're gonna do some more.
I have a 46-ish Duelist now, and a 38-ish Witch, and I think my new Ranger's up to like 12 or so. Fun.
I just have the one Ranger that's like 38.
Playing some more Ultratron. Played it for a 3rd time. This game is just... It's not difficult for me as far as dual-stick shooters go. A lot of dual-stick shooters I'm not good at. Like, Robotron just kicks my ass. But something about Ultratron, I just destroy that game. Last time I had to quit playing because I was bored before I died, so that's good. I found a new game on my 3DS, Steam World Dig. Have you heard of this?
I have not.
Basically, uh, the robots have taken over, but it's kind of old westy feel, and the robots taking over isn't the main point of the game. You play as a robot, and your uncle robot uh, gives you a mine, and after he dies, and it kind of plays like Terraria as far as you constantly digging, going down, and finding crap. But you don't have to build anything. You just gotta explore caves, get upgrades, keep digging some more. I don't know. It's just really fun. You eventually get a water-powered drill, and you get a water jump to jump higher. It's just a lot of fun, and the 3D on it's very subtle. The way Nintendo does their 3D, like the background's back, but there's not a whole lot in the foreground that's in 3D, so it's really nice that way. And you eventually kill Will Smith. What are you talking about, Andy? Oh, Wild West.
Steampunk robots. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, I get it. Okay.
Your ultimate form is clearly a steampunk spider ridden by a half man. Then you get to crush Will Smith.
Yeah, that'd be okay with me. I'm not a big fan. Did you know the Room had an update this month or last
I
month?
didn't, and I see you've been playing it, and it makes me sad I didn't know that because that game is great.
It's just one more big puzzle. So you should just it was free if you had already bought the Room. And then the Room 2 comes out later this year.
I was gonna say I was promised a damn sequel like 2 years ago. Give me the sequel to The Room.
Once you complete the epilogue, it gives you a splash screen saying it's out late 2013. So I'm looking forward to that because
Isn't it like late? So isn't that now?
this is like mid to late. We're still in Q3 here, so
Barely.
Anyway.
Couple days left.
Hey, what's been going on with you? Anything new?
I got this new mic you're listening to. Hopefully, I sound sexy. Yes, very much.
Do it, do some more. Do it, sexy.
That gave me like a half chub.
Yeah.
I've been on the hunt for an N64. Mine broke a while back. The power switch stopped working, and I've been tempted to crack it open and fix it, but it's like it's just as easy to get a new one. I don't know. I'll take. I haven't decided yet, but I'd probably just buy a new one because who knows if I can even find parts for an N64.
Yeah, that's probably gonna be a little difficult. If you're gonna look for a new one, I suggest Craigslist. They come up here pretty often. They're like 20 to 30 bucks, and I've even seen them for $40 in like retro gaming stores.
Here in Orlando, we just don't have a great retro gaming store selection. I'm gonna have to.
That's amazing to me, considering I
Yeah.
have two in my tiny little town.
You're telling me. We had this place called Play and Trade, but it was trying. It was a franchise kind of deal. There's still a couple around, but they're like half competing with GameStop, half like retro games, and it's a weird.
Yeah, that's there's another one up here. I think it's called Game Craze. That's a bit of a chain up here, but I don't know if it's a national chain or if it's just local.
I've heard of it, but I don't know if I haven't seen it. So
I know they go at least as far as Buffalo and Rochester, but I don't know about beyond that. The other two in town are just, they both have a second store in other parts of Western New York, but nothing huge. So you got one more thing in the show notes there. Oh, you talked about it already. You were sucked back into MMO land.
Oh yeah, fucking God. I'm playing Final Fantasy 14. I'm on Adamantoise if anybody wants to join me. It is super Japanese and super broken, which, all right, so MMO launches, if for all of you out there who've played MMOs, are usually go one of two ways. You either have the desert wasteland or you have too many people playing. And this is somewhere in the middle. Like, there's a lot of people playing, but Sony only... The game itself is actually pretty bug-free. That's, it's been in quote-unquote beta for like 4 years because the first version flopped. So they just took that, ripped it apart, put it back into beta, and made a new game out of it. But they were counting on about 500,000 people playing. I forget the exact number, but I think that's somewhere in that. So they planned for that. And day one, like even in the early release, they were jammed. Servers were locked down. This game has been 500,000 is not a lot, but for what they were planning for, this game is so like overcrowded. They shut down digital sales of the game. They shut down the ability to create characters. They shut down the ability to log in to half the realms at one point. And then they've actually pulled copies of this game off the shelf to prevent more people from buying it. It took them about a week, but they finally got some more servers installed and they're finally easing the load up. But for a good week, if you hadn't created a character in the magical like 20-minute window that was available for 90% of the servers, you just couldn't play this game.
That's
And
some
then
crap.
and then trying to log in because all the servers were literally at the maximum they could have. The servers have I think they said a 5,000 max uh, of connections, and when they hit that max, the queue, because that's beyond what the server will even handle. So then even the queue shuts off, and they were doing it manually. So you try and log in, and it'll be shut off. And if you were in the game and you were watching, what would happen was you would see when they enable logging back into the server because they didn't plan for any of this. So they do it manually. They'd turn off logging and logging in, and then when it dropped below a certain threshold, they'd turn it back on, and like 1,000 people would log on at once. So towns would go from empty to populated, poof, in like a burst, and then they would shut off logging in again, and then
Jesus.
turn it back on.
At least when WoW, had its server queues, at least you're like, oh, it's going to be 2 hours. Well, I'll go and do something else. I'd rather have
It's
that than, oh, it's just off again.
They reduced the load. They've got it working at this point fairly well. You'll run into a queue now, but you don't usually run into broken stuff. The only thing that's still broken is instance servers when the game hits too many people, like because the instance servers are across the entire cluster that they can fill up, and it's like you just can't do a dungeon right now. And because a lot of the story is instanced, it's like you can't progress the story until this server like depopulates. So it's been weird because most MMOs have a host of bugs at launch. This one's been pretty smooth. They were not prepared for the obscene amount of people they were going to have. And I've never heard of an MMO like, we're only going to have like 500,000. Like they're like, we're going to have 4 million. And they get 500,000.
Huh. Nah, what
So
are you going to do?
I mean, good for them for exceeding expectations, but it also screws me because I'm trying to play this game.
Yeah, why should we do anything for you? You spent money.
Precisely. But it's actually it's been a lot of fun. Little grindy. The main story you run out of at certain points, and you kind of have to do what they call fates. They're like, world events from like Guild Wars 2 or any of the other new MMOs. Those like dynamic world events. You kind of have to grind those a little. And that's all if you have the ability to, just like Final Fantasy XI, do any job or class all on one character. So instead of having an alt, you can have an archer, and then you're like, well, I want a tank. So you can level your tanking. But once you've done the main story quest, there's no quest to do. So then it's literally grinding the whole way up unless you want to make a new character and do it that way. But since you can't make new characters right now, that's ill-advised.
Yeah, with me, there's been nothing new. I'm still sitting at home most days and enjoying life of the fun employed.
That's my favorite word now, by the way. Fun employed.
The wife's taking a second job, so I got more time to myself, which is good and bad. I feel it's screwed up the way the system works. Because if I went and took a job earning the money she's getting at the second job, just a Joe job, like, uh, she's waitressing, like take maybe pizza delivery or some crap, that would take away from the money I'm actually going to get from unemployment. So I'd actually lose money in the long run, which is just stupid.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Oh, your wife is working 2 jobs while you're home all day. That could not possibly blow up in your face.
No.
Oh, that is going to be spectacular.
Andy says I stole Fun Employed from him. I may have. I'm not sure where I heard it first, but yeah. Anyway, let's get into news.
News. It's almost like that word implies that stuff is new. Alright, so I will start the news today because I'm feeling froggy. Yes. This is this has been dug up a little bit recently. It's if I remember correctly, this is kind of dead, but at one point Sega Australia had pitched they were going to remake a lot of old Sega Genesis games and Sega Master System games. But not only were we going to remake them, they were going to tie them all into like a Sega world, which sounds friggin' awesome.
Yeah, it does.
So like, games would take place and that they'd have a whole timeline and stuff. It was really cool, and I'm a little sad that never like took off. That makes me kind of sad. But what are you going to do, right?
The first couple games that are going to merge were Golden Axe and Altered Beast, and it's two side-scrolling beat 'em ups, which is awesome. But then you're gonna combine the Rise from Your Grave with the great multiplayer action that you can get in Golden Axe. And there's a video here of what they first started to do with Golden Axe. They actually made it four-player. Um, I don't know if there were different classes or if everyone was just basically a barbarian with a giant sword like they have in the video here. But looks freaking awesome. I wish this really actually had come to life.
I mean, it's being dug up now, so hopefully that means someone's putting a little spotlight on it and trying to maybe get this back in the works, because this would be awesome.
Sega Australia is also responsible for one of the games we're going to talk about in the news a little bit later, but we'll come to that. Tonight was the first night of the first football game of the season, so of course we got to have some football news, right? And what better than Tecmo Bowl? That's right, Tecmo Super Bowl is back, and you can play the 2014 or 2013-2014 season with Super Tecmo Bowl. It's free if you have an emulator set up. You can go to, I think it's tecmobowl.org to download it, and it's got all updated playbooks, updated characters in it. It's just an outstanding redo for this season. If you're watching the video, you can see they put Green Bay's Aaron Rodgers in there as the main guy. It's just fucking A.
That is, it never ceases to amaze me the amount of effort people will put into keeping a retro game alive, and I love it. Keeps us, in business over here. It's fantastic. This is the 7th update these guys have done in 22 years. It's just a pair of guys, I think Matt Knob and Keith Good. Four guys, Devin Scalisi and Dave Murray over at tecmobowl.org.
They should name their company Good Knob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have playbooks, rosters, schedules, and uniforms for all 32 NFL teams, which means they've actually added the 4 teams that were created after Tecmo Bowl existed.
Oh man, Andy is putting some stats up on Super Tecmo Bowl. Bo Jackson was literally a 658 out of 100 in every stat in the original Super Tecmo Bowl. He was too. He was freaking nuts.
Bo knows.
He also trademarked smashing bats over your knee.
Well, at least Bo knew. I don't know about knows.
Actually, fun factoid: Bo Jackson held Chelsea when she was a baby. My wife.
Weird.
Yeah. So that brings us to our next one. You want to talk about it?
I'm still laughing about. I'm picturing your wife being held by Bo Jackson, but she's an adult and he's holding her like a baby. Oh my god, I can't stop picturing it. That's ridiculous. Oh, so there was a little known game way back in the day on, I believe it was the Game Boy, before the Game Boy Advance came out. It was a genie. He played Shantae. There were a couple games, but they were under the radar, but fairly decent platformers. There's actually a group of guys who want to take this game, bring it up to the modern age in HD, and let us play it on our modern consoles.
It's by the same guys who did DuckTales Remastered too. It's apparently already out on the 3DS, but they want to bring it to a bunch of other platforms.
Yeah, I believe there's a Kickstarter up for it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. There'll be a link in our show notes to the news article on Kotaku about it. So if you are interested in Shantae, the half-genie princess, half-genie? I can't remember exactly what it said. But Shantae the half-genie, I'll go with that. You can check it out. They've also done Adventure Time and A Boy and His Blob remake. They did Double Dragon Neon, which I heard was excellent.
It was, actually. That was really good.
Yeah, it's a way forward. So, yeah, if you're interested in the platformer, there it is.
Yeah, and like I said, not a lot of people got to play this one back in the day. It's a pretty good game. So, yeah.
All right. Well, that'll move us on to another article I ran into. Actually, my wife put me up to this first, telling me about the video you're going to see. But apparently, this guy has done a bunch of other ones. He does a cappella versions of classic video game music. She found this Tetris one in an article. I'm not sure if she found where she found it, but it was on Kotaku, so that'll be the link we have. Oh no, I'm sorry. We just have the YouTube link to his section. But you should listen to it. One, it's really good, and two, he you can see the eight faces, and he does every little bit of the voiceover by himself. I can't imagine how difficult this is to set up.
And he's done a fair, I don't know how many at this point, but he's done a fair number of these. I was surprised you had never seen this. But it's pretty hilarious. And pretty good at the same time. Like,
There's certain parts like there he's bringing up his cat and he's playing with his cat. Um, that cat is so tolerant of his shit. And,
yeah.
Andy from chat says, "We have achieved full neckbeard status."
Yeah, he does have a pretty glorious neckbeard.
But it's just freaking awesome that someone would even take the time to tear the music apart and develop a cappella voices for it, and then record over each one, doing himself. And he says that cat's been dead for like 6 years.
That's that's sad. Probably true. Well, that brings us to our next tiny news article. Breath of Fire 2 is hitting the Wii U's Virtual Console today. It's already been available for the Wii since like 2007, but they're bringing it forward to the Wii U. So if you've got a Wii U, you now have a total of what, like 2 games you can play on it that are awesome?
Didn't Earthbound come out on the Wii U?
Yeah. What do you think number 1 was?
Oh, I was hoping it was something else. I was hoping maybe you were thinking of something else and we could actually say
No.
number 3.
The only actual game that came out from Nintendo for that console is Pikmin 3, and I was pretty underwhelmed with it. But we're not reviewing new games here.
You mean new games that came out for the console? Because isn't Wind Waker out on it?
Nah, it's not out yet.
Oh.
I don't
No,
know
the Luigi game is, though.
That's the Luigi game did come out. Or no, isn't that the? Are you talking about the 3DS one?
No. This wasn't on 3DS because I would own it if it was. It was on the Wii U. We talked about it before. It was the new Luigi U.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'll give you that. So we'll go with 3. We'll go with 3.
All right, we made it to 3. Hooray! You know, with the price of the other 2 systems and the lineup that Nintendo's coming out, I may end up picking up a Wii U before I pick up one of the others.
Yeah, the lineup that's coming out. None of those games are coming out before like 2014.
Yeah, but my Wii's basically dead. Are Wii games backwards compatible?
Wii, yes. GameCube, no. You can use your Wii Fit though, huh?
Yeah, I may have to tell the wife it's an investment in my gut. She'll be like, "Get a job. I have 2," and I'll be like, fuck you."
Like I said, that's gonna go over spectacularly.
So the other game I alluded to earlier is Castle of Illusion. This is the Sega Australia guys came up with a new 3D version of Castle of Illusion, the Sega Genesis game. This actually predates Sonic the Hedgehog, I was reading today. Did you play this as a kid?
Oh yeah. And this isn't a complete port. It's kind of like it's sort of a mix between, I forget the name of it, but they came out with a 3DS version of, maybe it's just a DS, of Castle of Illusion, like a newer version, and the mix of the Genesis one. So it's got some stuff from both in it incorporated, and it's kind of like a reimagining of Castle of Illusion with newer stuff. So it looks really good. The graphics look fantastic. The gameplay looks really good.
The only problem I have is it's Mickey. That's why I never played it as a kid. I've just never been interested in Mickey. I can't imagine you are living in the land of the mouse.
Man, I have season tickets to Disney. You know.
Well, that makes sense though, because you're constantly going, "Oh, come to my birthday party at Disney." But you don't really appreciate the mouse, do you?
The mouse, not particularly, no.
Okay.
So I had to do quick research. The 3DS game was Epic Mickey: The Power of Illusion, and this remake has incorporated some of the new elements they developed for that game, but it's more a retelling of Castle of Illusion.
All right. It's I'll wait for a sale. It's $15 on Steam, same price as DuckTales, but because I don't have the attachment to it like I did to DuckTales, it just seems like it would be too steep. Though the gameplay looks good. I mean, it looks like a good platformer in general.
It is. It's well, the original was pretty decent, so I can only imagine that the new one must be. All right. So speaking of, this is not a remake. This is just a straight up classic game. It's a game called "I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream."
Yeah.
It's an one of the first survival horror games. It came out in like '95. It was a point and click. Um, it was really good, and it's now available on Good Old Games. Again, it was at one point, but they took it off, and now it is back. So they've reworked out whatever deal they had. It's listed as a must-play on a lot of people's lists of classic games, especially classic PC games. So I played it years and years ago. I never finished it. Like I said, I was like 14 when it came out, and I had a lot of things on my plate. You know, chasing
Girls.
ladies and whatnot. Poorly, I might add. Poorly.
Yeah, that
So
didn't stop either.
man, never got good at it, but somehow I got married.
Yep.
So, so that's back out. If you never played it, you should. I know I'm going to pick it up.
I never
I
even
have,
heard of it, so
I have
I'm
a,
definitely interested.
it's $5.99 on Good Old Games. It's not going to break anybody's bank. Even the fun employed can afford it. And if you like point and clicks or you like scary things, do it up.
It's just a weird name. I have no mouth and I must scream. It doesn't tell
Yeah,
me anything, you know?
the image on the box that I seem to remember was it was just like a dude's face, and he had like bars over his mouth, like and it was like this weird, almost like lawnmower man image. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
pseudo digital, but sort of real, like with little boxes and stuff, little like trying to make it look pixelated. Is so. I'm gonna pick it up, finish it. I never got to finish it, so you should play it with me. Maybe we'll review it on here one of these days.
And he says, "Good news! I figured out what all my nightmares will be about tonight."
Yeah, the image is for a like '95 era game. The image is a little striking.
Well, that brings us to our next article. There is a new high score website called highscore.com. Um, Personally, I think this is a great idea.
Yeah, it's still in beta at the moment, but it sounds like a great idea. You submit your high scores for your games. You have to have visual proof. It can be video file or still image. But the kicker is people get to vote on whether they think it's legitimate or not, whether they feel it's legitimate. And you have to, maybe you know the numbers. I don't know off the top of my head, but so many people have to vote. And of that, a percentage, X percentage have to agree that it's a legitimate score for it to post.
Yeah, I don't know what the numbers are, but I was looking up a few of the high scores in games I'm good at. And one of them was Demon Attack. And Demon Attack is one of my favorite games of all time. It is the number one game for me on the 2600. And I was looking, and 2600 Expert slash A mode, my score is only 1580 by some guy named Yard Jr. from Detroit. And I've been looking through, he's submitted scores in basically every game he owns just to try to. Right now, there's a thing going on with Atari Age that you can get a $50 gift certificate if you're a leader in certain categories. The link to that contest will be in our show notes. And you can, win $50 thing, which, the stuff on Atari Age is winning free, or buying things like, what was that Mario game that was for the 2600? There was a Super Mario Brothers remake for the 2600 that was something about a princess. I can't remember the exact name, but you could buy it there. So that's what you could get with it. But 1580 is nothing compared to the high score I got. 17,580. Bitches.
Do you even own a 2600 anymore? I thought yours was broke.
It's broken. My own one. But if you look, this is a screen capture from my tablet. I have Activision Anthology on it, and I can hook a Wii mode up to it, so I get to basically play with a controller on my big TV.
We're
Which
gonna
is
find you a
awesome.
20. We're gonna find you a 2600 so you can put some scores up, some
They
actual
do,
scores.
they do have an emulated mode, so I'm going to see if I can submit this as the emulated score, but I don't know if it'll matter.
So apparently they're gonna keep track of your like it'll almost be like achievements, and stuff. They're essentially creating a website to give achievements and score recognition to games that never had them, and I really like that, especially since it's free.
Free versus Twin Galaxies that now charges you to submit a score because they were bought out.
Ugh, whatever.
Ugh,
After
is right.
after King of Kong, does anybody have a stomach for those guys anymore?
Um, I would still watch anything they're in just because of the train wreck that their lives are.
Uh, yeah, sad, so sad.
And
That guy,
it's
the guy, I can never remember his name. The guy that owns the chicken restaurant. Yeah, that's like down here
Billy
in Florida.
Mitchell. Yeah, it's in
Yeah, it was like near me.
Hollywood.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to go one day and order chicken and destroy his toilet, leave him an upper decker in his restaurant.
Jesus. That's for sucking my life away with your shitty scores. Um, Andy says in chat that if I combine the three games that are in the video right now, I'd have Dolphin Decathlon Attack, which would just be awful. Could you imagine
I would,
that?
I would play that game. I would play that game the most.
Uh, Andy wants to watch Walter Day punch himself in the dick for 2 hours. He's
Okay.
the old scorekeeper for
Yeah, oh
Twin
yeah.
Galaxies.
I would watch that. I would actually pay to watch that.
uh,
That's how fun.
Moving on to console news, we had a couple of release dates announced today and a new product. You want to talk about the new product?
I mean, you've all heard of it. You've all seen it. The wonderful, easy to make fun of Nintendo 2DS. Which does not mean two DSs. It means a 3DS folded flat and the third dimension extracted. Like
Yeah,
this, it's. I mean, as much as easy it is to make fun of it, it's not a bad. It's like half the price of a 3DS. It plays the 3DS games, which a Nintendo DS won't do, which is stupid, by the way. So for half the price, you get a 2DS. It's good for kids, especially it looks kind of like a tablet. The controls seem to be in weird places, but I haven't held one. But I would, if you have a small kid, I think this would actually be a decent product. But for the rest of us, stick with the XL. You're going to get hand cramps if you don't.
I have a standard 3DS because I got it refurbished on my birthday. I do occasionally get hand cramps with that. I probably would prefer a 3DS XL, but
Uh,
I don't see this as a horrible product. You can give this to young kids, and not there's a bunch of parents worried about what the 3D is going to do to their kids' eyes and blah blah blah.
yeah,
And
I
there's
think we're
some
on the
games
same
I
page.
actually play in 2D only, like Sega All Stars Racing Transformed has a lot of issues with the 3D, where the game will crash when you go to flip from like a car to a boat. So at least you wouldn't have these issues with that. I have to leave it in 2D mode to play that game.
I actually don't own a 3DS. I have a
You need
DS,
to.
a DS Lite, and a Lite XL, but I do not have a 3DS. Well, for a long time, it was the same problem with the Wii. There were no games, and then a ton of games came out. But then ton of games are coming out for other systems, so it's on my list of things to do. Plus, I was waiting for the XL version because having done the DS version and the DS Lite, and then getting the DS XL, I knew I needed an XL version because the DS Lite just gave me hand cramps. So now that that's out and kicking and it's getting pretty decent reviews, I'll probably and it's got the thumbstick built in instead of that stupid attachment you had to put on. So there's a whole series of things that work to make it.
No, it doesn't have the second thumbstick.
Oh, does it not?
No,
I was excited.
that's the Circle Pad Pro. There's only a few games that are even made for that, and one of them, Kid Icarus. You'd think it would be good. Kid Icarus is a game where you got to use a stylus on the lower screen to aim on the upper screen. And you think the
Yeah.
Circle Pad
That
Pro would be
sounds
used for
terrible.
the aiming for the second one, No, it doesn't. It's actually not a bad game. It plays pretty decent. The game came with a stand, so you put your 3DS on the little plastic stand, and then you just you work the thumb pad with the stylus. It's not that bad, but you'd think if it was going to have Circle Pad Pro
Wait, so it had a little
support,
plastic stand, so it looked like a Virtual Boy.
no, because you didn't lean into it, but sort of.
But it
Basically,
had a third
it's like
dimension.
it's like a tablet stand.
I'm this is, as a rule, I'm pretty against any game that requires like an apparatus to play it. Like I'm okay with like an attachment, but as soon as the word becomes apparatus, I'm like, I don't know about all this.
Uh, Andy says, "Dude, the Mad Reaper freakout sound from Kid Icarus is my ringtone." I gotta look that sound up because I don't think it's the same Kid Icarus he's talking
I
about.
love the NES version. Like, I love Kid Icarus. That game is awesome. Eggplant Wizards. What do they think of next?
And in other console news, we have a release date for the Xbone, November 22nd. Is everyone excited? Because I'm really not.
Yay!
They,
Who am I? I'm getting both. I'll eventually get a Wii U, maybe. We'll see how I feel. But we're all, at least most of us, are gonna get both. We're gamers. That's what we do.
the last console I bought near release was the Wii, and before that, I didn't own one during its normal time since the Genesis. Consoles just, I don't know. There's something about them. They got to do something special to get me into them nowadays.
And I don't know if we covered this, but the last time, but the PS4 is also launching the 15th, so it's going to be a week earlier.
Oh, it's a week earlier, 100 cheaper, and it doesn't have all the issues that people think the Xbone still has. The ones who don't follow the gaming news.
It'll be it's at least launch. I don't think anyone's expecting Xbox to perform anywhere near what PS4 does. I'm sure over the long haul they'll all catch up and do, pretty close, but yeah, for now we'll see.
If I get one, it'll probably be the PS4, but it's just not something I'm really excited about at all. I want to play Watch Dogs. That's really the only game that I'm really looking forward to, and that's, I think, going to have a PC version.
Maybe eventually. I don't know launch if it does or not. Plus, it's an Ubisoft game, so you know how much you love Ubisoft, and
I just hate UbiPlay. To me, it's the same thing as Origin. Just stop being an asshole and use Steam.
Yeah. Well, UbiPlay does use Steam. They just make you connect to UbiPlay once you install it.
Anyway, let's get on with our bumper for our game this week, Shadowrun.
You forgot the news bumper.
No, I played the news bumper, and we're talking about this one too. That's okay. We can talk about the bumpers. They're just bumpers.
Bump, 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 bump and grind.
Oh, I switched scenes too fast and didn't fade out. Oh well. Anyway, Shadowrun's return. Shadowrun.
You can catch it in
returns.
post.
No, I really can't. Not if we use the online recording. If I use the separate tracks, I could. But anyway,
Okay.
Shadowrun Returns is an RPG. Last week we talked about Shadowrun on the SNES, and tonight we're going to talk about its spiritual sequel. It's not really a sequel, more of just another game in the realm. There's not really a connection between the storyline other than one of the characters shows up. But it was developed by Harebrained Schemes and published by Harebrained Holdings as part of a Kickstarter. Jordan Weissman is the guy who created Shadowrun, and he was involved in very heavily in the making of this game. And when I say he was the maker of Shadowrun, that's the pen and paper RPG.
Yes. Not the terrible 360 game.
There was a terrible 360 game?
Oh yeah, it was you never heard of that? It was a online only shooter where it was class based and there were like trolls and there was like you could have like katanas and stuff. It was terrible. It was not good. I played it because I like Shadowrun, but not great.
The release date for this game was July 25th of 2013. That's right, we're doing a modern game on Return of the Retro, but we're doing it as part of a two-part show, so fucking deal with it. It raised 1.8 plus million on Kickstarter, which is huge. They were only asking, I think it was 400,000, maybe it was 800,000. Anyway, they got a ton of money based on what they were asking. But then Metacritic only gave it a 76 out of 100, which is kind of mediocre for a game.
Yeah, that's why I don't trust Metacritic, but moving on.
But there's some review sites really liked it. Hardcore Gamer gave it a 4.5 out of 5, saying this is one of the most satisfying and complete tactical role-playing experiences to come out of 2013, and realistically the last few years. Do you agree with that?
I do. The combat is a lot like XCOM, Enemy Unknown. If you've, I I don't think you've played it, but I'm sure some of our listeners have. It's isometric. This will bring us right into gameplay. It's a isometric third-person turn-based RPG. This Shadowrun is, and the combat portion plays pretty much exactly like XCOM Enemy Unknown, much like the old version. If you played the old version, which is a retro game, or if you played the new version by Firaxis Studios, which is phenomenal, and if you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's combat is turn-based. You have an action pool. Everything you do costs a number of actions, including reloading, shooting, casting a spell. You can move or whatever. And all of these, instead of getting one move, one shoot, one reload or whatever per turn, like some RPG, action RPGs and stuff, tactical RPGs, it you get a pool, which is really nice because it really allows you to plan ahead much better, in my opinion. Um, but where XCOM is only the combat, and it's executed a lot better because it's just the combat portion for the most part. This game splits your time between that combat portion, which is pretty good, if not fully fleshed out like XCOM, with an RPG portion where you walk around interrogating, picking up missions, talking to different people, learning things about the world, advancing the story. You know, you visit different locations and stuff. So you get two different gameplay styles together, which I think, while the combat's not as good as XCOM, makes it as good a game as XCOM in my opinion. Because I really like the RPG elements in Shadowrun Returns a lot.
You know, considering it's coming from a pen and paper game, I've never actually played Shadowrun, but I assume it runs on a D20 system. Yes.
It's been years. I think it didn't.
Okay, well, let's assume it does, and well, that way my comparison works. When you play a when you play a D20 system game, you have your storyline part where you're kind of investigating what's going on and you're walking through. Then you have your parts where you're in combat, which feel completely different than the role playing part of the game. And this game does a good job of separating the two like that and making it feel like they're very separate.
According to Wikipedia, it's a D6 system, all
Ooh,
D6. So
that's kind of weird. I once played a game that was a D5 system. It was this weird triangle die. They claimed it rolled evenly to all the sides. I'm sorry if there's two big flat sides. I don't see those rolling evenly with the edges, but whatever. Can't remember the name of it. Don't worry about it. To me, there wasn't a whole lot of innovation in the gameplay. It's click through conversations, upgrade your character, blah 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 blah. The multi-classing was very difficult to do. I had a troll and made him combat adept, and I tried to add a bit of magic to him, but I didn't want to add a whole lot because I knew that I'd need someone up in somebody's face, like a mage or something in his face, to screw with him. So I tried to add a little bit of magic. His magic never fucking lands a hit. It's ridiculous.
yeah, that's it's probably been a while since you pen and papered, but that's kind of the way it goes. Even back in the day when you multi-class, it for the most part it's gimmicky. It doesn't work very well, and just like that in this game, multi-classing just doesn't quite do what you want it to do. It makes you weaker in your main abilities to a certain, and then your secondary abilities, whatever they happen to be, tend to be so weak as to the point of uselessness. It does work for picking up certain things to use outside of combat, like hacking and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's primarily it, unfortunately. You can still beat the game that way. It's just going to make the game harder for you than it does if you pick a straight class and go with it. I played a street samurai because who doesn't want a ninja with a gun?
I didn't. I wanted to go with just one aspect, either melee or shooting.
Well, that's the beauty of Street Samurai is it doesn't. That's one thing the game doesn't do is a really good job of helping you pick a class. Street Samurai have the ability to do anything, but they work best if you specialize in one thing. So yeah, like that. The class selection leaves a little bit to be desired. It also doesn't do a great job of telling you how to allocate your skill points. There is an auto allocate, if I remember correctly, but I did not use that.
Neither did I. I allocated mine by myself. Oh, you know what? Right off the bat, I think I used the auto setup. But after that, when you get your karma points, I did that all by hand. Did you go ranged then?
Yes, I used assault rifles.
Yeah, I went with machete. I can't seem to find any kind of upgrade beyond the machete. Every time I ask the guy who sells weapons, machete's the best weapon he has. Other people have swords; they don't know where to get one. But it's not been that bad. I'm getting through the game without too much difficulty, so I don't know if that's an issue. But
And you can always, just like the original Shadowrun, this game allows you to build your party every time you go out. You can like hire mercenaries essentially, except for a few story beats where you have to take certain people. But so you can really fill in your gaps, and if you are really savvy and read the mission briefing, you can actually pick based on what you're going to come up against. So if you think it's going to be heavy hacking, you can pick a really good hacker. If it's going to be all combat, you can pick a really heavy combat squad. So that bit of tactical insight is actually pretty good, and I really enjoyed that part of the game.
I kind of avoided hacking as much as I could. I don't know
I
why.
was, we missed out on a lot of stuff then.
Yeah, apparently, because I saw a bunch of terminals and stuff that I couldn't do anything with because I didn't bring a hacker. Um, I did have
A lot of
one.
them are just little like secret caches that you can get, loot and stuff out of. But there's a few things that you can actually avoid whole combats because you can like turn on a turret that kills everyone in a room and you don't have to fight them and you get the XP for it, which is nice.
I think I know where you're talking about with that specific thing. I had to go in there, destroy the turret, and kill the two. Or actually, there were two turrets. Kill the two people who came in the room. That was kind of a tough area, but
Yeah. Which if you have a hacker, those two turrets nullify the room and then you turn them off. So
hmm, they weren't that hard to destroy. It was just the people coming into it made it a little more difficult.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, mostly the gameplay revolves around a tactical style. You get defense points for hiding behind stuff, so you got to kind of try. The problem with that though is because it's isometric, and so everything is turned 45 degrees from a normal east, northeast, south, west. So it's hard to decide how the angles of the bullets are going to come at you from certain guys. So I couldn't decide if I should be on one side of a pole or another to get the right shielding from shots. And that really caused me a little bit of a headache in the cemetery section, which is later in the game than you're seeing in the
Which
video.
which this is where not having played XCOM kind of bones you because XCOM has the exact same combat and cover system and does a really good job of teaching you how to use it. So since they pretty much part and parcel took that, including the cover icons are exactly the same. Uh, if you've played XCOM, you immediately know how to play this game. Like so, I had a little leg up over you in that that department.
You can see where the bullets are. Some of them are you're lined up basically directly, and it's easy. But sometimes the angles are just a little bit weird, and shots come around poles that you expect you're shielded on. That's all. Um, for the story, it's a little weird, and it's a lot different than Shadowrun on the SNES was. Shadowrun on the SNES, you're dead, and then you're brought back to life, and you got to figure out what happened. And this one, your buddy's dead. After you design your character, you're thrust into the same cyberpunk world that we experienced on the Super Nintendo version. But you start exploring your bedroom, and you eventually receive a call from Sam Watts. You quickly find out that he's been geeked, which is the game term for being killed. And that leads you to a flashback in the middle of your call where you learn how combat works. I mean, this is how they do the tutorial. It's a pretty easy mission, but it also gives you some background on why you know Sam Watts and why you should feel some sort of connection to him. Sam's death caused a dead man switch to go off, and that's why you got the call. During that call from a dead guy, it's all pre-recorded, and he tells you that you get an offer for $100,000 if you can find Sam's killer, and that's your motivation to complete the game, to get that $100,000 and to find Sam's murderer. From there, you play the role of a cyberpunk dick who must solve the murder, and that's Dick like Private Eye. The whole beginning of the game, you're basically just questioning people, which I thought was really interesting. The story
Yeah.
really grabbed me.
And there are quite a few homages, including characters from the original. I don't want to spoil anything for people that are going to play this, but there are a lot of really fun homages, especially at the beginning. So enjoy those when you get there.
Yeah, it was pretty nifty seeing a lot of it. Um, I did like the whole. There's a whole part of the world that just sells organs for money. I thought that was really interesting. And being a big capitalist that I am, I think that should exist in the real world anyway. But we'll go away from the politics of that and just accept that I'm fucked up. How do you feel about the music?
It was good. It did a really good job of recalling the original while still sounding modern. Same with the sound effects. They sounded, for the most part, like upgraded versions of what you would have heard in the SNES and the Genesis games. So I really like that. Um, I do wish I'm a little spoiled. I do wish there was voice acting, but in a game that's designed to be modular like this, because if we didn't cover it, this game has a pretty in-depth editor and is designed for people to make content for. So with that in mind, voice acting is pretty much out of the question. You could do it for this one thing, but it seems like that would be kind of a waste. But I am spoiled. I like voice acting. What can I say? But I won't hold that against the game. It did not. For $20, you can't really expect voice acting.
Yeah, $20, which is $5 over what the Kickstarter backers paid, and they did it. They were going to do it for a budget. I think it was, like I said, $400,000. So, you can't really pay voice actors or pay for the kind of processing you'd need to add that to the game and make it work correctly and all that. It did, however, make my Let's Play quite interesting because the first one I basically read every word on the screen to the viewer knowing my resolution sucked, and the second one was like, yeah, I don't feel like doing that. Sorry, guys, you're just going to have to watch. And then from there, I just kind of do a synopsis. But the sound effects, though, were kind of iffy to me. Like, the guys getting hit just like, ugh.
I think the biggest thing is for as many times as you get shot, there wasn't enough variety. And the sound effects themselves weren't bad for that, but there weren't enough of them, so you heard the same ones on a loop, especially when people were using fully automatic rifles, so you'd hear all of them in one turn.
Yeah, those ones were weird. There actually is an expansion planned for this. I'm trying to look it up again, and stupid thing's not working with me. Oh yeah, it's something about Berlin. Waiting on something to load. It was scheduled to come out actually this month, but it got pushed back because they wanted to do a better job with it and make it as big as the story Dead Man Switch is. So I'm actually gonna finish this fairly soon, probably next week, and that if they do as good a job with that story as they did with this one, I think that'll be excellent.
Do you know if they're going to charge for it? I imagine they will, but
I imagine they will, but I haven't seen anything
yeah,
official.
me either. I'm sure there's information floating out there. Uh, so
Um,
yeah.
did you see anything you wanted to talk about that you want to compare it to the SNES?
No, I mean it's actually pretty hard to compare. The combat's actually different. The RPG section's different. The world is very similar, and the way it all ties together is similar. But this game is hands down a much better experience. At least going back to the original. So it's really hard to compare and contrast. Aside from this is just superior.
Yeah, it's superior in just about every way. The other game was trying to be an ARPG that, it was before Diablo, so I can't really say that it wasn't doing a good job, because Diablo kind of set ARPGs on fire, and came up with a brand new way to do it that was interesting and fun, where Shadowrun was just kind of slow and sloggy with the combat. But the combat in this one, it has you engaged because you're constantly thinking tactics. Where should I move? Can I get to this space in the amount of steps I have? Blah 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 blah. The story portions of the game really gripped me, which is great. Whereas the story of the other one, I kind of just never really cared what was happening to my character.
I think the problem is you had to dig too deep for it, and the rest of the game was so unfun that you didn't care.
Yeah, that's
That,
a good
that's
way of describing it.
Yeah, because the story in the original is actually pretty good. It's based on a book, and if you read the book, you'll be like, "Well, I wish I'd played this game." Uh, but yeah, and the way you had to interact to get the information with little hot words and stuff was just
Yeah,
it was
that was
it
terrible.
was very Zork.
Um, this game wasn't very innovative in how it leveled, but I did enjoy it a lot more than the karma system that was in the SNES version. This one you
No
got
grinding.
no grinding. That was one thing that was tremendous. Um, you literally can beat every fight based on what you've already done up to that fight, which for me in an RPG, that is a godsend. That is exactly what I want. Um, but there was little things like you had to up your body so many before you could up things that related to your body. And so let's say you had got your body to level 7. Well, you paid 1 for the first part, 2 for the second part, 3 for the third, so you're at 6. 4 for the fourth, you're at 10 points. So by the time you get to 17, it's just exponentially increasing. Then you got to add, you got to do the same thing across the minor things. Like you got to get your, I think it was your quickness up before you could bring your dodge up to the same level. And being a melee character, I needed to dodge as many things as I possibly could. Just because I was going to be right in front of guns, auto weapons shooting at me. So it
It
ended
was
up costing me quite a bit to do things like that.
it was an interesting system. Like you said, it's every attribute had a defining attribute. So I think there were three. I think it was like body, one was mind for magic, and then something else. Dexterity, I think, for range stuff. But but essentially, if you wanted to up ranged weapons, like he said, you would have to. Your ranged ability could never exceed what your total dex was. So if your dex was at 5, your assault rifles could never be higher than 5. So you had to constantly be upping your dex to keep if you wanted to up your. And I like that system. It's a unique way to prevent people from over leveling a stat.
Yeah, it does do that. That's for sure. And he says, I want to see a character that has 40 points in right bicep and nothing else. Just a giant beefy right arm. And I go, yeah, 26-inch python. Just one of them. And he's a big wrestling fan.
Gross.
Um, the one character I am going to mention that's in this game is actually your character from the Super Nintendo game, Jake Armitage, which was kind of cool to get him, to see that connection in the storyline, even though this happens, 4 years later and really has nothing to do with Jake as far other than him just being there. It was just cool to have that connection since you're in the same city doing the same type of things that you were as Jake. Also, what was really cool was the way they had that special section in the Seamstress Union was beneath the piano.
Yep.
And you had to play certain keys to get it to open, which was kind of cool. I thought that was a nice feature instead of just having a push the thing out of the way and go. It was you got to play this certain little ditty.
But you only had to play it the first time.
Yeah, after that you just click on the button to go down.
Because
But
if you had to do that every time, it'd be frustrating. But it is nice that you have to do it the first time because it adds a little puzzle.
yep, I there weren't many puzzles in the game, but the little ones they had were nice.
Yes. And if you did hacking, there were a few more of them because the hacking tended to be the puzzle kind of thing.
The little bit of hacking I did so far, I had to go into cyberspace and I had to use help from one of the characters to get there. And he basically shows me, okay, this is how you do it, blah 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 blah. And then I had to use another character later in the game to open a door, and it was basically doing the same exact thing. Go in, hit this button. Does it get any more complicated than that if you actually level in
Um,
it in that?
yeah, there are actually enemies in there, and if you die in there, you die in the real world because your consciousness dies. But there's essentially when you're hacking in most things, there's an alert level, and the longer you stay in and the more mobs you kill, the higher the alert goes, the more stuff you have to deal with until you eventually get overwhelmed. So it's this nice. It's not fully fleshed out, unfortunately, but it's this nice like risk reward system where how long you want to stay in and how much you want to accomplish versus how long like I can do that next. I can get one more thing if I do stay just one more round. And unfortunately, there's sometimes where you're doing it in combat, and it's really disorienting to do a whole round outside and then go in because you get extra inside you get extra turns, so it's like 3 turns inside for every 1 turn outside. So you'll do 1 round of everyone outside, which is your party of 4. So you do 3 turns, then you go inside and do 3 turns, and you go outside and do 3 turns, and it's just a little disorienting. I get it, and I like it. The concept, it just didn't quite work for me.
The I like the concept. I think it should have been maybe a few more turns inside, or maybe just let me do everything inside, and that the way that's what I'm saying is how they should have done it. Do everything inside. Once you get hacked in while you're in combat, do everything inside, but have a round timer on how long it takes me to do that. Then divide that by 3 and tell me I have to survive that many rounds in the outside world in order for whatever I did in there to happen in the outside world. And I think that way you wouldn't have the disorientation.
Might have helped. Yeah.
But it probably would have, probably people would have complained about that too. So who knows? Man, we're kind of breezing right through this. This seems to be going pretty quick.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a while. This is a great game.
It is a great game. I was very impressed with it, and it didn't have me wanting to throw the controller and go play something else when I was playing it. So that's nice.
Yeah, it does not.
Um, what was your overall experience? Anything else you want to add?
This is the game I remember playing when I played the SNES version, which to me says they did a perfect job. They took what I liked about that game and the experience I remember having and turned it into a modern game with modern trappings that still like had the essence of this retro game, and I love it. Having gone back and played it, I was afraid I just hated Shadowrun now forever, and now playing Shadowrun Returns, I realize I don't hate Shadowrun. I love Shadowrun. I hate that game. So that's good for me. It's not a very long game. It tallies in at about somewhere around 20 hours. Shorter if you burn through it. And for $20, it's hit or miss. But you do get the ability to download tons of free content, anyone who makes anything, and they've committed to making at least I think 2 more X packs for it. That'll be a couple bucks a piece or whatever. So there's plenty of content, plenty of free content, and a lot of it's pretty good. There's also some that's pretty bad, but there is on Steam there's the rating system and stuff for that stuff, so you can see if people like it or don't. So I think it's well worth the expenditure. It has a potential for unlimited gameplay, which is always fantastic.
Yeah, the nice thing is it works with Steamworks, so you don't even got to question, how to load it or anything. You just go into Steamworks and load it in, and then you just select it when you start a new game, which is, things like that Steam does versus, what I had to do to, like, mod out Doom to be, like, a Star Wars area are so much easier, which is one thing I really appreciate about it. Right now, there's a 5-star one available called Neverending Night, which it takes place in Seattle again in 2055. And I think that'll be the next one I play because it's just, it's got 5 stars. It's on the Steam Workshop. You can load it in. It doesn't cost you anything because it was just made by somebody. Just the modern trappings of the game make it so much easier to get through things, which is just great. Let's see, I'll read a little bit more about this. Seattle 2055, May 18th, 11 p.m. After a hard week, you are happy to sit or to still be breathing and trying to recover in your apartment in the Barrens. As you are woke up by the ringing tone of your phone, you have a bad feeling about this. This could be a long night. This particular one is an open world, advanced story inspired by Daniel Sauer, who I don't know who that is. Has some optional quests, some loot, random encounters, boss fights, dynamic difficulty depending on karma level, which is fucking great. That means no grinding. And weapons from an amazing Street Samurai catalog by Trekker. It's still a work in progress, but it got 5 stars already. Which, that's kind of hard to do, is to get 5 stars when, you have people going playing your shit and rating it. Oh, I'm sorry, it's down to 4 stars now based on 71 ratings, but still.
Still pretty good. And there's a pretty decent amount of content on there as well, which is nice.
This is, to me, these mods are just as good as the people who are doing the stuff like the Tech Mobile we talked about earlier. I love when people have enough passion about a game to make something more for it.
And if you have ever wanted to get into game design for years, this was the only way to do it. A lot of current game designers developed levels for games like Halo and Shadowrun and all these other things, and that's their portfolio they use to get into game design. There are schools now for it, but there didn't used to be, and even now a lot of people, that's still how they're getting in, making levels, making mods.
Yep,
and
the guys who made the first Dota for Warcraft 3 now have great jobs. The guys that made Team Fortress were still involved. You know, the original Quake mod were still involved. At Team Fortress 2, they were working for Valve.
Yeah. The guys that made Portal they got bought by Valve. The guys that did Desert Combat mod for 1942 now have their own game studio. So, it's fantastic. Like, if you've got the passion.
And that's the key. There's so much work involved in this stuff that you need the passion. Um, Getting the tools isn't so hard. Learning the language is a little bit of a pain in the ass, but having the desire to sit there day after day after day putting shit together is what makes things so difficult like this. Anyway, you want to give it a score out of 10?
Yeah, absolutely, I do. For me, this is an 8.5 out of 10. My only real complaint is that I wish there was more depth to the combat. And honestly, if I hadn't played XCOM, that might not even be a complaint. So I love this game. I think it's fantastic, especially for $20. You cannot go wrong.
For me, I couldn't give it an 8. We gave Mega Man an 8, and I didn't have quite as much fun as Mega Man. I still had a ton of fun, but Mega Man, even with its super difficulty, had me coming back all the time to my 3DS. So can't go quite that high.
Man, RPGs are my jam. I like Mega Man, but you give me a platformer and you give me an RPG, and I'm gonna play the RPG 100 times more and enjoy the hell out of it. So I.
For me, if the RPG is not grindy like this one, then yes, I'll agree to that. But as soon as you give me something that's grindy, I'm like, I'd rather grind and feel like I'm gonna learn something from the grind instead of just getting higher levels.
I have my tolerance for grind has gone down a lot. Obviously, I used to, I played Final Fantasy 11. I played EverQuest. That was the only way to level in those games is to stand in one corner and kill the same mobs for 40 hours. So, but I just can't do that anymore. I don't know if it's age or boredom, but whichever one it is.
We also gave Chrono Trigger a 6, or I gave Chrono Trigger a 6, and I enjoyed this one a bit more than Chrono Trigger. There wasn't a whole lot of grinding Chrono Trigger, which was nice, but it also, I think it's more because of the modern trappings that I'm going to rate this higher. It feels better, it's smooth gameplay. I think I'm going to rate it higher just because it's modern, and I feel it's kind of unfair, but there's a reason modern games are what they are today. Evolution makes things better. And so with that said, I'm giving this one a 7, the low end of a must-play for me. Sorry.
I feel so that means Chrono Trigger is not a must play because that makes me sad.
I gave it a 6, which is just below a must-play. I don't feel like I was missing anything by not playing it. This game, I would feel like I'm missing out on something when I went back and played it.
Once you're not fun employed, we're gonna have to get you a copy of XCOM because I think you're gonna love that.
Yeah, basically, I didn't realize XCOM had tactical combat. Is it turn-based as well, like this?
Yep, exact same cover system, same everything, but
Yeah.
harder. It's much harder.
Yeah, I probably will enjoy that quite a bit. So this is normally where we talk about our listener stuff, but we don't have any. No one talks to us about the games we're going to present. So if anyone, wants to mention stuff, please do so. We have new forums available to do it.
We do. We have forums. You can talk to us. It's wonderful. Wunderbar.
Wunderbar. There's not a link on our page yet, but I'll be sure to put one up there when I put this episode up on our page. But they're geekinsomnia.com /forums will get you there. You can register. It's not a big deal to register. If you get deleted because we think you're spam, that's because your name looks like spam. That's not our fault. We've had a lot of people logging in with spammers. I think we had 10 new spammers sign up yesterday. It was ridiculous. But we have a thread on there for our next show, which is Super Mario World. We're going to be talking about the pack-in for the Super Nintendo. Yes, we do a lot of Super Nintendo games. That's because I've never played them, so deal with it.
You're in for a treat, sir. A treat.
This one I have started a little bit, but I haven't gotten past the first castle yet, so it's basically brand new to me, and I haven't played it on hardware before. So I have that already. It's sitting in the Super Nintendo ready to go, but I don't know. It's another platformer too. We seem to jump RPG platformer.
Well, that's because one week you get to pick and one week I get to pick.
I don't mean to keep picking platformers. It's stuff I haven't played that's really popular and people want to hear about. So anything to build an audience. Since right now we don't have one. That's not true. We get about 15 or so downloads a week, which is pretty good. For
Hey, I'll take it.
yeah.
I appreciate each and every one of them.
Yep. If you are a listener and you haven't contacted us to tell us you're a listener, please do. We want to build a community around this stuff, not just shove out another episode in your face and make you listen and not do anything. Also, I should mention I am going to be at Con Alt Delete in Chicago in Lisle, Illinois. Well, it's actually Lisle, Illinois. It's outside Chicago with the rest of the Late Night Steamer crew. Are you gonna come, Ervik?
I don't think I'm gonna make it. Unfortunately, my a big merger thing going on at work, and I just don't know if I can get away. I would love to, but I'll let you know before the next podcast for sure. But probably the next few days. But chances are slim.
Yeah, I figured that. It's no big deal. But you at least get to meet everyone from Late Night Steamer if you want to come out. Andy has this idea that we're gonna all dress as the seven evil X's from Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
That is my favorite movie of all time, so we're clear.
Oh, did you hear Andy did a show on it?
I did. I'm afraid to listen. He better love it.
I think you should listen.
All right, fine. I will.
So that's a Geek Culture Happy Hour if anyone else is interested.
Which is a great show. I've listened to most. I just have not. I was actually nervous about the Scott Pilgrim episode because that's my baby. Do not. Like Edgar Wright. It's made by Edgar Wright, if you don't know. We're going to devolve here for a second. And Edgar Wright does such wonderful films as Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, World's End, an unfinished Ant-Man project that we may or may not ever get. And Scott Pilgrim, out of all those movies, which are fantastic, is by far the best. It's the perfect piece of cinema.
I'm not going to argue with that point. I've only watched it once. I want to watch it again to get a better feel for it before I kind of say that about it. But I enjoyed it. Andy says he gave it a 4 out of 5, so you shouldn't be too scared. He also says our Con Alt Delete's going to be a train wreck, and yeah, he's probably right. Because there's going to be, 3 drunk guys, a straight edge guy, and his girlfriend. And it's going to just be awesome.
I hope you all get very drunk. I want you all so drunk that he gets drunk. Just by being near you.
Smell my body. It stinks like alcohol.
Andy brings up Spaced, which I did not mention, which is the TV show where Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, and Nick Frost all came together in a beautiful sandwich of awesome.
Oh, hide my shame. It's everywhere.
It is everywhere.
Little inside joke. So yeah, you can find us at returnoftheretro.com. That's where you'll find our show notes when I release this episode. Also, you'll find links to everything there. Our Facebook, our Twitter, our YouTube. And our Facebook's kind of dead. No one really likes it. And I don't really have many followers on Facebook. But you could be next. Yay for you. We're also part of the Geek Insomnia Network, geekinsomnia.com. That's where our forums are. Come talk to us, please. Or talk to us about the other shows as well. We need a community just so we don't look, like a bunch of 30-something guys or older talking to each other about geeky shit just to, blow ourselves. Because that's pretty much what it feels like right now.
Well, that's what we're doing. If anybody else wants to listen, that's their problem.
Yep. Oh, well. Anyway. We're going to let Tim Bray of freesound.org take us out.